Hello, everyone. This week we say goodbye to a political icon in our world. We say goodbye to Gorbachev. And that will be the subject of this week's video is Gorbachev. Um, I also want to mention briefly that today is the first day of the today is the first day of the Harvest Moon Festival. And on Harvest Moon Festival, we bake all sorts of baked goods and we sell baked goods. Um, we don't really have a temple to sell the baked goods out of, but if we did, we would sell baked goods to the public and raise funds for the temple. But we don't have the temple now, so just enjoy baked goods during Harvest Moon Festival. That's all I can say. The Harvest Moon Festival is to celebrate the plentiful harvest. And we celebrate the Harvest Moon Festival every year, and Harvest Moon Festival ends with vegan Thanksgiving. And the vegan Thanksgiving is all vegan food, so that we're not celebrating a holiday with the death of animals. I can't stand celebrating a holiday with the death of animals. Now I eat animals again, but I still don't believe in celebrating a holiday with the death of animals. So we're going to have a vegan feast once a year on the vegan Thanksgiving. So that'll be at the end of the festival. I'll let you know when the end of the festival is. The festival lasts 2 weeks, so that you can figure it out on your calendar all by yourself, how long the festival will last. And maybe make some preparations for the vegan Thanksgiving. Yes, maybe. And also, veganism is good for the environment, but if you're not planning on becoming a vegan, which I'm sure you're not planning to become a vegan anytime soon, it wasn't good for me. It was bad for my health. But if you're planning on becoming a vegan or just don't want to be a vegan, but want some of the benefits of veganism, you can have meatless Mondays. And meatless Mondays are a good compromise that helps out the environment, helps out your health, to have a meatless Monday, and also it's a dedication to making the earth a little bit safer place to live, because raising meat for food it's really labor intensive and resource intensive. So if we can conserve some resources, like some water resources, like they're running out of water in the Southwest United States. If we can conserve water resources, that would be great. So meatless Mondays, just something you can do for the environment and even for the animals. But I plan on doing these meatless Mondays myself because you know I like helping out whenever I can, even though I can't go meatless completely anymore. I can't do it because my immune system went haywire and was on the verge of death. Everything was killing me. I was becoming allergic to everything. And then when I ate meat again, my immune system leveled off and it was okay again. If you don't want to do Meatless Monday, that's okay. I would still recommend eating vegan on the holidays because we don't want to celebrate the death of animals. That's not nice to celebrate the death of animals. But anyway, on to Gorbachev. Gorbachev was a great leader, and Um, he found out early on that communism was not the way, because he had a father and a grandfather. Both of them were arrested and dragged off to prison by Stalin's regime. And Stalin was practically a dictator. He made himself dictator for life, but he didn't last. He didn't stay alive forever, Stalin. And so because Stalin didn't live forever, because he was mortal and finally came to his final rest, Russia was free to choose a new premier. And that premier that they chose eventually became Gorbachev. Gorbachev was one of the newer premiers, and he was the last one. He was their last leader of the communist regime before it turned over. And see, Gorbachev, when he found out that his father and his grandfather was particularly beloved by him. He loved his grandfather. When he found out that they had been arrested and dragged off to prison, and it was Stalin's doing, because his grandfather didn't blame Stalin. His grandfather deflected blame away from Stalin and said that if Stalin had known what they were doing to him, that he would have been appalled and he would have restored him right away. But Gorbachev found out later on that it was Stalin's doing. That was all Stalin's doing. And so he was shocked by this information, because he had lived in a world where everything was pre-programmed and drilled into everyone's mind what to believe. So when he found out that what to believe was not what he had been taught, it created a crisis in Gorbachev's life, and he really loved his grandfather, and it was just so hard on him having his grandfather away in prison, and especially his father and his grandfather both in prison. He didn't know what to do, and they had famines. The famine was during the time of Stalin, and the famine was due to the mismanagement of the farmers. The mismanagement of the farmers led to the Great Famine, and a lot of farmers starved to death. A lot of people starved to death. It was because the farmers were being mismanaged. They were arresting people left and right, accusing them of high crimes against the state, and even executing people. So Gorbachev decided to reform the system so that that wouldn't happen again. He didn't want another dictator taking power, because that was against what the precepts of communism were not for a dictator to take power, but because of the way communism is set up, it makes it easy for a dictator to take power. So he went around trying to reform the communist regime, this Gorbachev. And I remember from the moment that he became the premier of Russia in 1986, from that moment, he was always on TV. And there wasn't a day that went by that they didn't talk about Gorbachev. I remember this growing up. I was just a kid, and I was growing up, and there was Gorbachev on the news every single day. And he spent a lot of time with Reagan. The two of them met each other frequently, and they shook hands, and they smiled, and they were friendly with each other, even though their countries were deadly enemies and were nuclear armed states that were hostile toward each other. But Gorbachev and Reagan got along fine, and so because of that, we were hopeful that there wouldn't be a nuclear war. At last, there was some hope. We saw a glimmer of hope that there wouldn't be a nuclear war, and that even that the USSR would come to an end. And indeed, because of Gorbachev's reforms, people had a taste of what was possible under capitalism. They had a taste of freedom. freedom for once in their lives, freedom from want, freedom from fear, and freedom from the harsh censorship of free speech that enabled the communist regime to remain. So then an opposition regime rose up, led by Boris Yeltsin, and they took over from the communists. Gorbachev receded into the background and wasn't the ruler anymore after a while. And Boris Yeltsin's regime took over. And somehow, some way, somewhere along the line, people missed the old communist regime and thought that it was better than it was just pure nostalgia. It wasn't a real positive difference. It wasn't a real positive difference. It was just pure nostalgia for the good old days. And because of that, they elected Putin, who was a former KGB agent. They trusted him because he was a former KGB agent. And Putin has turned out to be very detrimental to his country because they've put all these sanctions, these economic sanctions against Russia, and basically cut them off from the rest of the world because of Putin's actions in Ukraine. But we know that Gorbachev's reforms led to the fall of the USSR, and we know he was a good man and a decent man. He tried to hold up communism as long as he could, but he couldn't. He couldn't hold it up. He couldn't reform it because it was beyond reform. It was the system itself, the communist system, that was the failure, not the reforms. So, because the communist system itself was a failure, it receded into the background. So we celebrate Gorbachev. He died recently, and we're going to miss him because he was a great man. Even though he was a communist, he was a great man who led the reforms that enabled Russia to be free for a while. It didn't last long, but Russia was free for a while. For one moment in time, there was a glimmering hope of Russia being free. And we don't know if that time has passed or not. But here's hoping that Russia will be free once more once Putin meets his demise. And that they don't put another dictator in power after Putin is gone. Let's hope. Let's just hope that they reform things. And Putin has been sick. They say Putin may have cancer, so we don't know. But celebrate the Harvest Moon Festival. Enjoy it with your family. Enjoy baking cakes and muffins and cookies with your family. Enjoy that. Enjoy the camaraderie and the good times. Celebrate the good times this Harvest Moon Festival. And also celebrate the bountiful harvest. Say your prayers to Goddess, thanking her for the bountiful harvest. I know it hasn't been much of a bountiful harvest this particular year because there's been hailstorms and flooding and all sorts of things to destroy crops this year, even wildfires. But, it's good to have some harvest rather than no harvest at all. So celebrate what we get, what we do get. Goddess has been really good to us. Think about how good she's been to us. And meditate on that this Harvest Moon Festival, how good the Goddess has been to us and how she's rewarded us so richly with these good crops and how she's given to us so much these past few years. Just think about that and think about think about the bountiful harvest itself, how amazing and breathtaking it is. So that's it. Harvest Moon Festival starts today. Start getting your baked goods ready and get ready. Prepare, stock up for the vegan Thanksgiving 2 weeks from now. And I'll see you next time.